Welcome, Andrew.
Thank you, Susan. Thank you very much.
Now, as you know, I think the leadership styles of CEOs vary quite significantly. How would you describe your own leadership style?
Fundamentally, everybody given opportunity can achieve whatever they wish. And therefore, the issue is providing opportunity for people. So my leadership style, Susan, is bounded by, or I guess its foundation is providing opportunity. And so that means that there is goodness in everybody, there is capability in everyone, and all the difference is some people have opportunity and some people don't have opportunity. I'm trying to create opportunity for people to show what they really can do, really what their strengths are. And generally, I think there's another camp of CEOs who spend their time focusing on reducing weakness. I'm trying to enhance strengths and capability, but opportunity is the central core.
And would you say that was your key driver, that that's really what helped you get where you have got?
I think so. I would say that I've had tremendous opportunity to do things, whether it was early on in sport, it was in school, it was at university, it was in early life in business, that I've had tremendous opportunity. And I've had people who've taken an interest in what I've done, who've helped me along the way. And those sponsors, coaches and others have had enormous impact. And I'm trying to mirror that. I think it's the secret ingredient.
So you really, a lot of it is mentoring.
Mentoring and sponsoring also, which is even more. So mentoring, I think, is a conversation with you. Sponsoring is a conversation someone has about you and can really promote you to open up opportunity. And I think that's something that probably in business and probably in sport we don't see enough of. We see mentoring with conversations with a person about how they can improve, but there's a difference between that and sponsorship, which is trying to open up doors for you, open up situation and opportunity, which is an important element.
So, looking, as I mentioned earlier, we're talking about some light bulb moments. What was your first light bulb moment?
When I was first asked by Liz Broderick to get involved in the Male Champions of Change, I thought, yeah, look, I understand about the issue and I believe in it. And she gave me a book written by Cordelia Fine called Delusions of Gender. And basically, it's a very small paperback book that looks at all of the research that has been published in the past that show that the male and female brain are different. And there is a separation in the cerebral cortex that means that male and female brains are different. The reality is there is no such difference, there is no such separation. And there is one study that has been relied on in error over the ages in relation to this. And so fundamentally, if you compare that reality, that there is no difference in the male and female brain, and the outcomes in terms of representation at leadership level, and I know I've mentioned it a number of times, opportunity, then there is a difference that happens and means that more women have less opportunity than their male equivalents. And that to me was a light bulb moment. I couldn't but be alarmed, shocked, staggered by the magnitude of the differential in opportunity. And yes, there are reasons for that, some valid, some not valid, but that differential in opportunity is something that for me was a light bulb moment. So at that point, I said, rather than just be staggered by it and entertained by it or impressed by it, I made a commitment personally to do something about it.
And how did that settle with your CEO, other counterparts? Were they thinking the same as you, or did you find that you were feeling a bit on your own on that one?
I guess with other CEOs, how did they see the same issue? The answer is depends. And again, unless someone has sat down with you and explained that to you and showed you the numbers and I would say the reality of it, then it's very easy to assume that you understand what's going on until you have a gender-conscious view of that whole situation. And so the Male Champions of Change group was formed to not only, firstly, to enhance our own perception of the issue, so through listening and learning, but most importantly through developing of things that make a difference in terms of equality, female representation in leadership, etc., and then sharing that with other CEOs. And so a fair amount of my time and other time, the time spent by other CEOs, is sitting down with other male leaders largely to explain the difference, the differential on opportunity, the impact of bias, and the impact of doing something on those two things, and how positive that can be for organisational performance. And quite frankly, it's a very, very fulfilling journey. The first thing is to identify that there is something here that should be looked at, and then to spend some time looking at it. And most organisations, if you look at female representation levels in leadership, if you look at pay equity at certain grades of staff, they would say that there is equal opportunity, we promote on merit, and our pay is equal. And when you actually look at the data, I haven't seen an organisation that hasn't got some examples where pay is not equal and where merit is not applied. And yet most organisations would say merit is at the heart of it, which is where I think sport is so important. Sport, it's vibrant in this country, but when we look at the implications for women in leadership and women's sport generally, I think we've got still quite a way to go. The thing is, I've used this term before about gender-conscious leadership. Liz Broderick said the classic statement, unless we consciously include women, the system will subconsciously exclude women. And I think at the heart of this whole issue and the rate of progress, or the lack of progress you might say, is that we don't have sufficient people who are conscious enough about women such that they ask themselves, they ask their organisation the question. The Male Champions of Change, and indeed the Gender Advisory Board that the Chief of the Defence Force has established, are both about ensuring that the senior leaders are conscious on decisions they make about the impact for women, and they're doing so to improve the female representation at senior levels, because most organisations, it drops off very, very swiftly in the late 20s, early 30 years of a female's career. Why? Because of family bearing and family rearing years. We've got to do something to retain those people in the workforce. There's an economic imperative, and of course there's a moral imperative. I would have in my reviews with the global CEO a review on the representation of women in our leadership. For example, like I had reviews with the global CEO in relation to revenue growth and profit. It was equal. And so that is an important insight. And again, it's been, as a light bulb moment for me, that priority of taking the gender lens and applying it with the same sort of gusto as revenue growth and margin and profit is an important light bulb to say, if you're serious about doing anything in business, measure it, have accountability, have targets, and have implications if you don't perform.
For up-and-coming executives in both corporate life and sporting organisations, what advice would you give? Like 3 big do's and a couple of big don'ts. I wonder if you've got some thoughts on that to help them along their way.
First thing is, I've got to be gender conscious. And that first point about unless we consciously include, the system will exclude. I've got to consciously include women in things that we do. Who do I ask to speak on topics? Who do we invite to meetings? And basically, I want equal weighting of male and female voices as voices of authority in anything we do, whether they're representing us internally or they're running panels, meetings, participating internally. Number 2 is, I've got to set targets with teeth for female representation in every aspect for the business, and I've got to make people accountable to achieve them. This doesn't mean put the wrong person into the job who hasn't performed, who hasn't earned the stripes. It says you are to find the right people, develop them, and promote them so that over time the female representation in senior and middle leadership is improving, and you can demonstrate it and have implications if there's no progress. And I mean money, i.e. tie financial rewards to, like STI and LTI, short-term incentive, long-term incentives, to progress in relation to female representation. The third one is make sure that what you're doing is stronger than what you're saying. And what I mean by that is a lot of people are trying to, I think, demonstrate how committed they are to gender equality rather than saying, look how much progress I've made. and sharing that learning, because the more you focus on this issue, the deeper you realise is the challenge, the more substantial is the challenge. And so overperform, demonstrate progress ahead of talking about it and promoting it, because I don't think there's a way to gender wash yourself. I don't think there's a way to gender wash your organisation. And if you're making tone deaf comments in relation to gender or whatever, I tell you what, it's your female employees who are going to see it first and realise that anything you're doing has no substance. So be authentic, take action, multiply it across your leadership team, and be conscious in everything you do that's there. But the pitfall is try and appear to be serious about it and not be serious about it and not take action, because then you're worse off than doing nothing.
Andrew, thank you very much, and we look forward to talking further.
Thank you very much, Susan.